the last 24 hours. People affected by the Biden border crisis. Democrats were here and saw what we're seeing. Maybe we'd have a chance at ending this crisis and actually securing our southern border.
Ahead of this hearing, Congressman Jim Jordan and more than a dozen other Republicans were given a tour of the Border Patrol's Yuma sector. They got to see a portion of the border wall that essentially cuts off into nothingness. In that Yuma sector, there were more than 310,000 illegal crossings last year. That's the highest number ever reported in the sector and almost triple that of 2021. Looking at Arizona as a whole, there have been more than 571,000 migrant encounters in fiscal year 2022. To date this year, almost 186,000. Yesterday, House Republicans also met with the only local hospital in Yuma. They say they're on the verge of financial collapse after having to spend more than $20 million in 6 months caring for migrants who can't pay.
It is an unsustainable model to have a hospital like ours bear the entire burden of paying for migrant health care. Migrant patients are receiving free care. They have no ability to pay. We have no ability to bill anyone. We don't know their final destination. We don't know anything about them.
They say it's a matter of resources as well. This month, the hospital's maternity ward reached capacity, and the next closest hospital is more than 60 miles away. Ashley, Todd.
Yeah, the hospital is going to implode if they don't watch it. They cannot sustain that. Alexandria, thank you. Let's bring in Virginia Congressman Ben Cline, who is still down in Arizona. Congressman, thank you so much for getting up with us on this Friday morning. So, you know, the tour was Wednesday. You were there. We actually have video showing you touring at the border. The hearing was last night, and I know there were residents who were talking to you guys and giving their firsthand account of what they're dealing with. What did they tell you?
Well, Todd and Ashley, it's great to be with you. I wish the Democrats on the Judiciary Committee could have been with us today, because then they would have seen the impact that these waves of migrants have had, not only on their health care system, on the availability of beds in their hospital, but on their education system, with the farmers who we talked to about the impact on their crops. It's bad enough if they knew what's going on down here, but gosh, it's really, really bad, and they needed to see it.
Congressman, as we show video of Wednesday night's walkthrough, take us through your experience. What did you see? What did you feel?
Well, at the wall, you just see huge gaps. And when you think about the fact that during the last year of the Trump administration, they had 8,000 migrant encounters. During the first year of the Biden administration, they had 100,000 migrant encounters in Yuma sector. And this past year, they had 300,000. It's getting out of control. And the people we talk to are having their safety, their personal safety impacted, their kids' education and lives impacted. And it's just really overflowing across the country, so that every community is now a border community.
Congressman, we see these videos, we hear these firsthand accounts of what's going on at the border. My question to you is, why couldn't President Biden have flown down to the border? He made his way all the way over to Kyiv in Ukraine, and he went to Poland. I'm sure the flight would have been much shorter and a lot cheaper for American taxpayer dollars to fly down there. So my question, how often is the GOP in contact with the White House saying, you guys really need to get down here? We need help at this border. We need funding.
Listen, our doors are open on the House Judiciary Committee. Chairman Jim Jordan and the rest of the committee are ready to work with this White House to secure our border, to make sure we reform our asylum laws, to make sure that we restore Title 42, remain in Mexico becomes a priority, and we build the wall and invest in technology and the other things that are necessary to secure this border.
Congressman, pretty shameful that not one Democrat was there. How can Democrats say they are serious about securing the border crisis at large, when they dismiss Republican efforts, their words, as a political stunt?
Well, it's not a stunt. You know, they talk about education, but let's talk about the impact of 300,000 migrants on education down here and education in all of our schools, English as a second language courses, hiring teachers. They talk about health care. Well, let's talk about the impact of 300,000 migrants here on the healthcare system, hospitals at risk. All of our hospitals have beds that could be going to community members being taken up by illegal immigrants and costing our hospitals and our taxpayers money.
If something doesn't change in Yuma, especially when you talk about the hospital and you talk about Yuma Regional Medical, which we have been talking about for months, they're spending the upwards of $20 million in 6 months. I'm sure that number has gone up, because that was a number we saw over a month and a half ago. What's going to happen to this hospital if people cannot get the medical care that they need?
Well, that is exactly right. They're not getting the care that they need. If you're a woman who has a baby who needs a NICU bed and the nearest bed is not available in Yuma, you have to go 100 miles to Phoenix. That's a terrible, terrible impact on a new mother, on a newborn baby. To get the help they need, it really does need the attention of the White House and of both parties, not just Republicans who were there on the scene, but Democrats who were absent.
Yeah, you hear this migrant care cost being labeled as unsustainable by that CEO. How long, though, Congressman, before medical care in all 50 states is compromised because resources are going to illegal migrants instead of citizens?
Yeah, you just talk to people in my neck of the woods in Virginia, where troopers are pulling over vans full of migrants being trafficked and drugs being trafficked in our communities, people dying from fentanyl. Education systems, healthcare systems being overloaded, and that's Virginia. You talk about Yuma, Arizona, it's unsustainable, and we really do need to take action now.
Really quickly, before we let you go, you were down at the border. You saw it. You're in Arizona right now. You mentioned the wall. Would the wall prevent a lot of this from happening? 10 seconds.
The wall would do a lot towards preventing it from happening. It would funnel people toward border protection and keeping people in Arizona or in Mexico while they await their asylum hearing. That's the solution we need.
Also, maybe Democrats showing up to one of these hearings would be helpful.
That would help.
As well. Congressman Ben Cline, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Great to be with you. Another week, my friend.
Yes, it is. Have a good weekend. With that, Fox and Friends starts right now. See you Monday.
Okay.